Hello, Rosati Kane. My name is Felicity Hesed, and I'm happy to be able to share a little bit with you about my life in the performing arts. Currently, I live in San Francisco, and I work in the fields of theater and circus. What does that mean? Well, a life in the performing arts is different for everyone. Here's what mine looks like. I work as a clown, an actor, and an aerialist. I perform in a variety of local theater and circus shows. I do corporate conferences, school assemblies, and street fairs. I also get the opportunity to take my acts and perform them in shows around the world. That's me on a billboard in China. Most recently, I've been developing a solo show called Cara Vita, a Clown Concerto. It's a play about my experiences of having a family and being an artist. Told with music, circus, and clowning. I had just returned from touring this show from San Francisco to the East Coast to London when the pandemic hit. In addition to performing, I'm also a director. Sometimes I get hired to direct shows written by other people. Sometimes I direct shows that I adapt or write myself. I work with professional performers, and I also work with youth and community performers. Finally, in addition to performing and directing, I also teach. I teach youth and adults that are training to be professionals, and I also teach people that want to explore circus and theater just for fun. So, in a nutshell, that's what I do. I grew up in St. Louis, and I attended Rosati Kane High School. I loved Rosati. My favorite thing about high school was doing theater. I was in every play I could be in at Rosati. I learned so much about performing and what it takes to put on a show. But mostly, I loved the experience of working with a group of creative and committed people to make a wonderful story for people to enjoy. This is still why I love doing theater. Although I knew in high school that I loved theater, I wasn't sure that I could really make a career out of it. So I decided to go to a liberal arts for college. I went to Kalamazoo College in Michigan. I continued to study and train theater, but I wanted to continue to broaden my horizon, so I took classes in a range of subjects, and I even did a 6-month study abroad in Israel. After college, I decided to give theater a shot. I moved to Chicago. Chicago had a good theater scene, but it was closer, cheaper, and less intimidating than New York. I got a job as a temp during the day, and then on weekends and in the evening, I would audition for shows and go and see shows. I auditioned a lot, a lot. And I got cast sometimes. None of the shows paid much, but I was meeting people and I was learning and I was gaining experience. It was scary. It was really difficult and scary and often disheartening, but I forced myself to keep doing it. One of the many auditions I went to was for a company called the Free Associates. They were a company that did long-form improv based on a specific style or genre. I did not at all expect to be cast. I just went because it was an audition, and then I did get cast. I was scared out of my wits. I was in no way prepared to do an improv show. I mean, I was a serious actor. I memorized scripts, and I'd always been a lot more comfortable doing drama than comedy. I really didn't think I was very funny, but it was a role, and it paid. I couldn't exactly turn it down because I was scared. I was making some money performing, but I still needed a day job. During the summers, I would work at theater summer camps, and I loved it. It was so fun to work with the kids and teach theater, but then the fall would hit and I'd go back to my temp job, which was horribly depressing. So I decided to go back to school and get my teaching credentials. I got a master's in teaching at DePaul University and was able to land a full-time job as a theater teacher for a middle school. While in Chicago, I also discovered circus. I was walking down the street one day and I passed a building that had these big street level windows, and inside people were doing acrobatics and trapeze, and I thought, oh, I want to do that. So I started taking classes at the Actors Gym, and I became addicted almost immediately. It was only natural I would start to think about how I could combine circus with my old love, theater. So I started making acts, and soon that turned into shows that combined circus and theater. By this point, I'd been out of college for about 7 years. I'd just gotten married, and my husband was also working as a performer and a circus teacher. And we decided if we were gonna really go for this, it was now or never. So we packed up our lives in Chicago and we drove out to San Francisco to attend the Clown Conservatory program at Circus Center. To be honest, I'd never been a big fan of clowns, and I didn't really want to be one, but as an actor and a circus performer, it seemed like the most obvious way to combine those two things. So I decided to go for it. Check it out. This picture is from the one show that I ever wore a clown nose for. I still consider myself a clown. My idea of clowning doesn't match up with most people's stereotype of clowns. When I got to SF, I was a little fish in a big pond. I discovered just how much I didn't know about circus and clowning. It turns out there's always someone with more skills than you, and it's really hard to be funny. But I kept going. I kept creating and meeting people and working at my art. We ended up having children a few years after completing the Clown Conservatory program. And I'll be honest, having kids definitely threw a wrench into my performance career. I mean, it's not so easy to do trapeze when you're pregnant. But I continued to perform as a clown. The funny thing is that I didn't really start achieving success as an aerialist until after having kids. I buckled down and made a comedy trapeze act that was a hit. My career has not followed a traditional path, but I'm not sure anybody's really does. All the twists and turns have led me to be the artist I am today. My experience doing improv and clowning and circus and theater has allowed me to create a unique style of art, both as a performer and a director. My experience teaching has given me the opportunity to make a living in between performance gigs and has also allowed me to make invaluable personal and professional connections. Even having children has fed my art more than it has drained it. You may have heard them screaming in the background of this video. I think that sometimes we are taught that we have to pick just one career, and it has to be the perfect job that we're good at and that we love and that we make money doing. But it's just not that simple. Life is short, and it is okay to want more. No experience is wasted. And it's not impossible or impractical to make a career as an artist. You just might have to get a little bit creative about how to make it work. But that's what we're good at, right? Being creative. And just because you don't make a living as an artist doesn't mean you're not an artist. I would be remiss if I didn't mention how the pandemic has affected my career. At the beginning of 2020, I had just launched the tour of my new show, Cara Vita. In March, I was just returning from London, about to plan the next phases of the tour, when the pandemic hit. All shows were canceled for the foreseeable future, and performers suddenly found themselves completely out of work. I was actually scheduled at the time to direct a circus version of A Midsummer Night's Dream for the summer, and we started rehearsing over Zoom and then decided to go ahead and transition and make it a video project.
Oh, good evening, and welcome to A Midsummer Night's Dream.
I'm Jeremy Vick.
And I'm Texas.
we will be performing one of Shakespeare's most delightful comedies, a romantic summertime romp filled with fairies, magic, and love. Don't say no, 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 no.
Just say yeah, 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 yeah. And we'll go, 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 go. If you're ready, like I'm ready.
This is Shakespeare, but it is also a sing-along, dance-along, circus spectacular.
Oh, so don't get too comfortable, because we're going to want you to sing and dance with us.
It's been heartbreaking watching my career crumble around me due to circumstances completely out of my control. But if I've learned anything about a life in the performing arts, it's that you have to keep making work. You can't wait around to be discovered. You have to make opportunities for yourself.